Hey guys, welcome back to this another video from Angular 2 series for absolute beginners. And in this video, we are going to learn about Angular services. We'll see how to create and use a service in Angular 2. So far in this video series, we have seen components, we have seen data bindings, we have seen how directive works, but one thing that we haven't yet seen is how to manage the data for our application. So basically, managing the data of application is an important part of web development. And in this video, we'll see how to manage the data for applications using services. So before starting, let us see what do we have for now. So if you have been following the series, you are familiar with this web page. So basically, we are using our Angular component, this person component, which contains this list of supermans, and we are using this HTML where we are using ng4 directive to iterate one person at a time. So if you see guys, this is not a very good arrangement because the data is specifically banded to your component. So this can be used only inside this component. If you wish to use this data out of this component somewhere, that is not possible at the moment. Also, if you see, any changes to the data should be made in the component itself. So in case you are getting data from some external source, if you change the source, if you change the data from the source, you have to make all those changes into this file. So at this moment, this is not a very good arrangement of maintaining the data. Let us see how to use services to keep the data separate from the components. Let's start with creating the Angular services, and we'll be using Angular client for that. So the command for generating the Angular service is ng generate service followed by the service name, ng generate service. Let us call the service person. So this generates service files for us, and also it gives us a warning: service is generated but not provided. It must be provided to be used. We'll see what that means later. For now, let us quickly see where our files are. Okay, here if you see two files have been generated. Let us not talk of spec.ts file, that is something for testing purpose. Let us see this person.service.ts file. Okay, if you see, this is how the default Angular service looks like. So basically every service uh, by default comes with this injectable class imported from Angular core. Now guys, this is something that we have seen for the first time in this series, uh, and what this basically means is that this class enumerated with this decorator is capable of taking injections, or in other words, any external uh, service can be injected into this service. Basically that is what injectable right here means. And basically you should use this injectable in each of your services, whether or not you are using external dependencies or the external injections. It's always a good practice to have this injectable decorator in your service. So let's start with creating a private variable for this class, and let's call this persons. So persons, and basically it has to be array type. So let's make it array of any. For now I'll copy the same data that I have in my component. So let's remove this data from here, the component. Let's remove this and copy this data to our service. So it's the same data copied from component to this file. Now since it's a private variable, I need some method or a function to take this out of this class. So let me quickly make a method get person, we shall return with this data, sorry, return this dot persons. Okay, that is all for this file. Let's move back to our component files and see what changes are required here. So basically if you see now, our person list is a blank list. So if you see on the browser, we are not seeing those supermans, right? Since we do not have them in our person list. So how do we get them? So guys, the first thing is to get them out of the service class. Now, before using this service class, we'll have to provide this service to this class. So that is what the warning in the console meant. Basically, whenever you need to use any service in any component, that service should be available to your component. And in other words, that service should be provided to your component. Now, there are various ways of providing a service to a component. You can provide a service to a component specifically by declaring it inside the component declaration, like the one we are going to do in this video. So we are going to uh, provide this service, that was person service. Okay, person service. Now it's giving me an error because it can't find person name. So before doing that, we also need to import this service from where it is, basically person service, from our person.service file, person.service. uh, so basically, now, okay, this should be service. Sorry, I had a typo there. Okay, so now if you see, the error has gone. So basically guys, in this case, we are providing this service specifically to this component. So this service can be used specifically inside this component. Any other instance of this service created or provided outside of this service will be a different one. Or you can, what you can do is you can provide this service component to any root level component, and then all the child component inside that root component just get this service or get this instance of this service automatically. So basically, whenever Angular injects a service into a component, it looks from the very bottom. So basically, it looks from the individual component level. If it finds the service there, it injects the same service. But if it uh, does not find that instance there, it looks up into its parent and try to find that component or try to find that provider. And if it gets one, uh, it provides the same instance from the parent to the child. And if it does not find the instance there as well, it looks up the hierarchy till the very root level, and if we do not find the instance anywhere, it will throw a provider not registered error. So basically, that is all up to you where you want your service to be provided. But the thing to be kept in mind is uh, any instance provided to the parent is shared with this child as well. Okay, so now that we have provided this instance here, person service, we can go ahead and use it in our component. And now the first thing that we need to do is we need to create an instance for this in our constructor. Let's call it private p service. You can name it anything that you want, p service, and that should be of the type person service. Okay, now if you see, our component implements this on init, so we can use this on init ng on init method to get the data out of the service. So this dot p service, something like this, dot get person, I believe that was the method. Get person, let's name this to persons since there are a lot many persons. So get persons, and let's assign this data to our person list. This dot person list. Okay, so in this case, we are getting the data, we are getting the names from our person service, and we are assigning those names to the person list. And again, we'll be using the same person list to iterate on our HTMLs. That is what we are doing here. Let's see if this works on our browser. So if you see, we are again back with the name of the persons. So if I go ahead and make some changes to my service method or the service variable, so basically I'll try adding a new Superman. Let's name it Iron Man. And this should get reflected to my view. No, not yet. So I have saved this dot person dot get person. Okay, it gets reflected. Basically, I hadn't saved that earlier. So you see, now we have a separation of concerns for our component and our data. Our data label is entirely different from our component. We are just asking for the data from our component, and we are getting that back from our service, and then we are using it in our component the way we want. So this is how Angular services work. This was a pretty low level example for using services, but it provides a good picture of how you can separate the data into your service and how then you can ask for the data from your components. In the next video, we'll be seeing some inbuilt Angular services like HTTP, and we'll see how those services can be used to fetch the data from remote sources. If you find this video useful, please do like it and subscribe to our channel, and I will see you in the next one.